Hi doctor, today our group want to present about valuable contract and illegal contract. I'll let introduce my group members. My name is Jaykumar Sivakumar, and next Suli Jun, third one is Yap and Karunia, next one is Temisha, and next one is Tegeswari and Peshwita. Let's start with my part, that is introduction. A valuable contract is one that can be cancelled or attended for qualified illegal reasons. Not all contract can be broken to escape liability. There must be prior legal prescriptions. And nextly is an illegal contract is an agreement that involves actions forbidding by law. Such contracts are void and unenforceable from the outset because they are involve purpose or consideration that were valuable for or common law.
I'm the second presenter of this group. Okay. My topic is about the illegal issues and the valuable contract. Okay. My case law is about the Kanhayala versus the National Bank of the India, the Cotton Mill one. Okay. The law or the act involved with the section 72 of the Indian Contract Act. Okay. The facts of this case law is about the National Bank. The National Bank of India has tried to cash back the loan get by the Kanhayala, but in fact they are not able to do in that way. This is because the banks claim being subject to a hypothecation upon these goods, which had long since ceased to belong to the judgment debtor. Okay, and the illegal issues involved is okay. Well, we can make a discussion like this. We can ask a question: should Kanhayala recover the money he paid to the bank for removing the attachment on mills that he had bought? But in the result, we can see that the help from the Privy Council, the Privy Council granted Kanhayala an appeal and concluded that the sale to him was valid and there was no attachment of his property. The decree of the appellate court was set aside and the decree in favor of Kanhayala passed by the lower court was restored, enabling him to recover under protest payment. Okay, also in this case, I'm agree with the help of the court, since the court is make a logical help, and in my opinion, the bank should not charge back the loan get by the Kanhayala, since Kanhayala has already made use the books as the hypothecation, and the debtor is no longer is the National Bank of India. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Greetings, doctor. My name is Temisha, and next I'll be presenting about undue influence. So, undue influence actually addresses situations where one party exerts coercion or control over another in specific relationships, leading them to have an unfair contractual agreement. So, the case that can justify undue influence would be Malaysian's French Bank Berhad versus Abdullah bin Mohamed Yusuf and others, which happened in the year 1984. So, in terms of facts, in this case, Malaysian's French Bank Berhad sought to enforce a contract against Abdullah bin Mohamed Yusuf and others, who argued that the contract was procured through undue influence. The defendants claimed that the bank dominated their will, which led them to enter the contract due to undue influence. So, the main issue that was raised was whether the bank was in position to dominate the will of the defendants, use that position to gain an unfair advantage, and whether the plea of undue influence could be raised by parties that those directly involved in the contract. So, it was held by the court that the defendants actually did not provide sufficient evidence to prove undue influence. So, therefore, the defendants had the burden of proof to show the bank's dominant position and unfair advantage. Additionally, the court held that only parties directly involved in the contract could raise the plea of undue influence, which reinforces that third parties lack standing to assert such claims. So next I'll be presenting about the legal principles and implications of this specific case. So the legal principles that were established would be proof of undue influence. The alleging party must demonstrate that the other party was in a position to dominate their will and use this position to gain an unfair advantage, requiring clear evidence of the relationship and also the influence as well. And the second principle would be standing to raise undue influence. So only parties directly involved in the contract can raise the issue of undue influence, where the third parties actually lack of standing. So in terms of implications, this case actually underscores the necessity of having clear evidence when claiming undue influence, and highlights the court's need to examine the relationships and circumstances surrounding the correct information. So it also reinforces that only directly impacted parties can actually challenge the contract, which serves as a key reference for future disputes and undue influence cases in Malaysia.
Nextly, I want to talk about the fraud. 2.3 fraud. That is case I do is Smith vs Williams. That case, synopsis of that case is: in Smith and Williams, John Smith bought a properties lease who claimant include 10 acre of primer farmland. Smith later found that only 5 acres were usable. The farmer rest as the is financial harm. The court ruled to William to misprescriptions allowed Smith to reclaim the contract, the recover down the payment and damage of instruction that contract be introduced by the fraud involved party. The issues of the case is whether Schmidt could rescind the contract as being Williams frauded him, and the judgment is the contract was voided and Schmidt's option to court allowed the Schmidt to rescinde the contract and recover down the payment of the damage.
A very good morning to Dr. Sabri and my dear fellow friends. Today I would like to present about the case that named Bell v. Lever Brothers Ltd 1932 AEC 161. The facts is employment and severance agreements. Bell and Snelling held top positions at Lever Brothers Ltd through a subsidiary. Lever Brothers sought to end their employment early, offering severance agreements with substantial pay. The second is employment violations. Both Bell and Snelling had seriously violated their employment contracts before the severance agreements were finalized. Lever Brothers could have fired them without pay if aware of these violations. The main issue of this case is common mistake, whether the severance agreements could be cancelled due to the shared error regarding the employees' violations and the right to terminate without pay. Was the error significant enough to nullify the severance agreements? The held is House of Lords decision. Common error did not allow for revocations of the severance agreements. Secondly, the agreements were valid and enforceable despite the misunderstanding about the employees' prior behavior. The reasons behind this case is character of common error. A mistake must pertain to a basic element of the contract that materially changes its performance or nature for it to be voidable. The second is subject matter of the contract, main focus, payment and termination of employment. False perceptions of employees' behavior did not affect the core subject matters of the agreements. The third is continued validity. Lever Brothers' mistake did not invalidate the agreements. The parties entered into the agreements with full understanding of relevant information at the time. By this case, we can conclude that first, legal implications. Court emphasized that a mistake must materially change the essence of a contract for it to be void. Errors not affecting the core subject matter do not render an agreement void. The second is impact on contractual relationships. Importance of clear and ambiguous contractual relationships. Courts are reluctant to terminate agreements unless a mistake fundamentally impairs the terms or execution of the arrangement. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good evening, Doctor. My name is Prashita Sridharan and I'm from class BTMM section 1 and my metric number is B0622210003. Today we will examine the case of Jackson vs. Smithson, focusing on whether the contract between them is voidable due to Jackson's age and lack of understanding of the contract terms. Background of the case is Jackson, a 19-year-old entrepreneur, contracted with Smithson a seasoned business owner, to purchase real estate for his new business. Jackson signed that contract and paid a substantial deposit, but later found the terms, particularly regarding penalties for delayed payments and property maintenance, to be beyond his capacity. After consulting a legal advisor, Jackson learned that the contract might be voidable since he was a minor, with the age of majority in their jurisdiction being 21. The key legal issue here is whether the contract is voidable due to Jackson's age and his lack of understanding of the contract term. Mispresentation can occur if one party fails to provide critical information. If Smithson did not clearly explain the penalties and maintenance requirements, it could be seen as a mispresentation by omission. For mispresentation to void a contract, the misinformation must be material, significantly impacting the contract's terms. Jackson's lack of understanding due to insufficient explanation qualifies as material mispresentation. Jackson relied on his understanding of the terms, which were not fully disclosed by Smithson, leading to his agreement to the contract. Jackson's age and limited business experience hindered his ability to comprehend the complex terms. Smithson, being experienced and should have ensured Jackson understood all critical aspects of the contract. Jackson sought legal advice and aimed to void the contract shortly after realizing the burden and mispresented terms. Prompt action strengthens his case for voiding the contract based on mispresentation. In conclusion, the contract between Jackson and Smithson may be voidable due to mispresentation, Smithson's failure to explain critical terms, and Jackson's reliance on incomplete information, coupled with his limited capacity to understand the terms, provide strong grounds for voiding the contract. Thank you.
So greetings to Doctor. I am the user with matrix number of B0622100162. So I'm going to present about the illegal contracts. So according to section 2G of the Contract Acts of 1950, an invalid contract is one that violates the law. So according to section 24 Acts, a contract's consideration or object is unlawful if it is specified in any of the section subsections. In section 24 has stated that the consideration or object of an agreement is lawful unless A, is forbidden by law, B, it is of such a nature that if permitted, it would defeat any law, C, it is fraudulent, D, it involves or implies injury to the person or property of another, and the last one, the courts regard it as immoral or opposed to public policy. So if cases meet any elements that stated above, we consider as unlawful. Meanwhile, every contract where the object or consideration is against the law will be void. So next I'm going to provide a case law which happened in 2016, which named as Pedal versus Mirza 2016, with the code of UKSC 42. So in these cases, Pedal had given Mirza £620,000 to bet on a share in the company using inside information. So the agreement between them amounted to a conspiracy to commit the offense of insider dealing, contrary to S53 Criminal Justice Act of 1993. So the inside information did not materialize, which means the illegal act was committed. So Pedal tries to get back his money. So what's the issue? The issue was Mirza argued that the money should not be returned to Pedal. As a result of trust, Pedal would have to take responsibility for his own unlawful action, which they're betting, right, by using the insider dealing. So but according to the Tinsley versus Milligan in 1994, 1 AC3 140 was authoritative for the point that a party could not seek to rely on this illegal conduct to establish an equitable interest in property, as this would be against the public policy. So the panel argued the illegal act had not been put into effect as it had been cancelled. So they think that there is no illegal act had been done. So what is the decision? The decision are the panel was successful in its claim to recover the monies, despite their having paid to Mirza pursuant to criminal activities. So the reliance rule in Tinsley should not be longer to be followed, as the claimant will not be prevented from enforcing his claim to property because it was paid to perform an illegal act. So as the following allow his claim would be against the relevant public policy, or it would not be suitable to allow him to recover. So that's all for the illegal contract of my part, and I will pass it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Greetings, Doctor. So now I'll be explaining about the case under illegal contract, which is Smith versus Mountwood, 1845. So in the Smith versus Mountwood, the plaintiff, London tobacconist, sold tobacco to the defendant without complying with the Excise Act, which required manufacturers or dealers to have their name painted
on their premises and to have proper license. The defendant refused to pay for tobacco, leading the plaintiff to sue for agreed price. So the issues in this case was whether the plaintiff's non-compliance with the Excise Act made the contract illegal and unenforceable. The defendant argued that the contract was illegal due to the lack of compliance, while the plaintiff contended that non-compliance did not automatically invalidate the contract. So, held was when the court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, allowing contract to be enforced. Anderson J. analyzed the statute, focusing on its purpose. Thank you. Next, I'll be explaining about key points of this case. First is purpose of the statute. The court found that the Excise Act aimed to regulate the tobacco trade and ensure proper licensing to prevent tax evasion and invalidate sales contract. Second is illegality and enforceability. The court distinguished between statutes that made contract illegal and those that impose penalties for non-compliance. Since the Excise Act was regularly and non-prohibitory, the contract was not inherently illegal. So the third one is impact on the contract. The statute's intention was impose fines, breaches, rather void contracts. Therefore, the contract was enforceable and the plaintiff could recover tobacco's price. So the conclusion of this case was this case demonstrates that not all statutory breaches invalidate contract. So that's all from me. Thank you.
From the all of the case that has presented by my team members, we can conclude that Malaysian French Bank BHT.P. Abdullah bin Muhammad Yusuf and Ors, the first case, undue the influence in contracts, emphasizes the need for clear proof of undue influence. Only direct parties to the contract can claim undue influence, highlighted the importance on demonstrating that one party's will was dominated by another. The second case was concluded by Patel v. Mirza 2016 UKSC 42 section, recovery of money from illegal agreements. UK Supreme Court allowed recovery despite the agreement's illegality, marked a shift from previous rulings that prohibited recovery from illicit transactions, and emphasizes balancing unfair enrichment standards with public policy. The third case can be concluded by Smith v. Maywood. The first is contracts and subsidiary violations. Contracts not always void for statutory violations. Plaintiff recovered the price of goods as the statute was regulatory, not invalidating, highlighting the subsidiary purpose can influence contract enforceability. And the third case was Jackson vs. Smithson 1929 AAC 127 1MC 79, that is can be considered as hypothetical case. Deception and contractual capacity. Mispresentation by omission can void a contract, especially relevant when a minor signs without full comprehension. Demonstrate consequences of deception in contract law. Key themes and illegal principles: balancing contract, respect and justice, protecting parties from deception, coercion or illegal behavior. Voidable contracts can be terminated if real consent is compromised. Illegal contracts are void by definition. Importance for legal understanding: ensuring contracts are fair and legal. Essential knowledge for legal experts and students. The fourth case can be concluded by Bell v. Lever Brothers Ltd 1932 AC 161, severance agreements and common mistake. Agreements upheld despite misunderstanding of employees' right to be fired without pay. Errors was not significant enough to render agreements void. Reinforces that contracts cannot be readily revoked for errors unless it fundamentally affects intent or executions. So, as an overall conclusion, the thing is legal implications. Courts focus on fairness, legality, and real concern in contracts. Understanding voidable and illegal contracts is crucial for managing business law challenges. That's all from us. Thank you.